Good morning from Easier Habits Live. I'm Alec.
And I am Meg.
And so we have hit something interesting where we had a successful presentation last week, or you had a successful presentation last week. And what made it successful were like seemingly very obvious things that took a long time to learn.
Yeah.
And that was interesting to me. It came down to finding the right audience at the right time and actually teaching them content aligned with your business and what you would like to sell to them or offer to them. And actually figuring out all of those variables took a long time. You've been teaching people English a long time, but like generalized English, not specifically that. You didn't have a specific offer to give them. There's all these little pieces that fell into place. And we talked about why it took so long to figure that out. And it wasn't one thing. It was mostly the iteration of holding yourself accountable for specific attempts to get clients.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
And so you mentioned the pitch template from VSLs and the learning to do the VSLs ourselves has come in handy with this. The doing the 5-day challenge.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff that we got from our marketing consultant, just as far as the overall plan, right, for marketing and how to work that in a way, that this particular group doesn't have a lot of online ads or Facebook ads, and so, what can we do, in other ways, but he, again, it was a lot of the stuff that we knew, but also, like, didn't have the actual experience with, and so I think that's one of the things that we've talked about in the past, what separates kind of the experts from the novices, which is knowing from experience what that path looks like and how it feels, and knowing, when it is the right audience at the right time, as opposed to just kind of like treading water, hoping that it's the right one, I guess.
Right. And there's so much judgment involved from practical experience in terms of what to pay attention to. And, someone who's experienced can quickly recognize, yes, this is my audience, no, this is not. Versus somebody who is a novice is spending a lot of time thinking, well, I think these things match up and they might be my target audience, but I'm not sure, so let's try it. There's a different viewpoint there. So, having known that it's like that iteration of just basically running a customer journey, right? Trying to create one from start to finish, but not just create one, not just like build a website and, if you build it, they will come, but actually then going and recruiting people to it and seeing if you get traction and then trying something else and running that several times.
Definitely.
So the question is then, this has been, let's see, where are we? We started this at the beginning of November. And we're going through June, 8 months. We are in April, so we have 3 more months, 5 out of 8 months. How do we accelerate this process?
Well, let's think. How do we accelerate this process? That's a good question. I think part of it, is, you've seen, the resistance that I've had to certain aspects of this journey, right? And seeing which ones are like, and which ones I'm able to kind of, deal with better. I think part of it is having had some good experiences now. It's like, okay, now I have to do it again. What are the parts that I can lean into, right? That I do enjoy, that are the, I don't know, the things that were most effective. So, where can I talk? I'm running this 5-day challenge again this week, which is exciting. I don't want to, throw too many things at myself, but what is potentially another avenue for getting these clients? So, okay, we've got our 5-day pitch challenge. Is there another, something that I might be able to do to show people, showcase what it is that I do and how I do it. And so, yeah, and then figuring out how to find the people, I think is one of the biggest things. And then making the asks, which is still hard, even though I've done it now. Making that ask is not a simple thing for me. So,
well, all right, having been through this process a few times, I think doing the 5-day challenge is helpful, and iterating through that is helpful, because that in the future, you could take the individual days or individual offerings, right,
Mm-hmm.
and turn them into packages. You could turn that collectively into packages. But a lot of that is essentially still learning,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what we learned is, and it'll be interesting to see how many people you capture from that you didn't capture for your workshop.
Yeah.
Right? If you have the one free workshop that gets you clients,
Mm-hmm.
I was running the numbers on this. So, for example, just in terms of like getting up to not just a repeatable client acquisition model, which is our goal, but like what would maximum capacity be for you?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I realized, if you're working with people in a Japanese time zone, for you, that's like, you'd have to basically take the hours from 6 to 10 and have a client every hour,
Mm-hmm.
right? Monday through Friday.
Which kills my evenings.
Yeah, I mean, you still have weekends, or if you're trying to use your weekends to fill that stopgap, then you could have some more breaks or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, that would be your work time, right? But that would be maximum capacity. Assuming, for instance, you had a 3-month program, so that people were cycling out, like a third of your 20 clients were cycling out 6 to 7 people, and you get 2 people, we'll see if this is repeatable, but you get like 2 people for workshops. That means like basically every month you would have to have those 20 clients in the evening, and then somehow do 2 workshops, or 3 to 4 workshops to maintain full client load.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So figuring out just logistically how to do that. And I've been thinking about timing as well, right? And like I can make some use of my morning time.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some Japanese people who are like, yes, please do, my lesson at night. So for them, like right now it's 10 p.m. and this is a good time for some of them. But, then it's figuring out like, okay, how am I going to be able to do that, with kids in the morning and with this, live thing. Or, we've talked about potentially looking at Japanese people living in the States already, right? And so, people who are in, for example, like the Pacific time zone are really great because right now it's 6 a.m. And so by the time that I finish all of this stuff, it's nice, good morning time for them. And I can, do that during my time while the kids are at school, and have more time in the evening. But it's, then figuring out, well, how can I target those people? And that's, there's
a lot of Japanese people in Brazil, aren't they? Or there's a good chunk.
Portuguese speakers, though.
Yeah.
So they're Japanese descent, but...
I was just wondering if there were communities. The same thing would be said in the States, right? That if they grow up here, but if there are communities of people who are, Japanese expatriates.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't really know. I know there's more of those communities in like LA and Portland, actually. There's a huge Japanese community in Portland. One of my clients is there right now.
Nice. Ask for referrals.
I know. I'm like, I don't think she watches these, but yeah, she's awesome though.
So some of that is just like, all right, we have a very, now that we've done one thing successful, no, like the question is, can we repeatedly make it successful?
Yep.
And one of those things I imagine it's depending on is there are only so many times you can do that in the same place with the same people and still get clients, right? Yes. So it's like finding new people. So it's having the slots for 20 people. And so, even imagining, right, like your work day could be 7 to 9 clients and or presentations, and then 6 to 10.
Yeah.
Right? So you have 6 slots, or 6 hours, 30 hours of time you could synchronously communicate with Japanese people, essentially. And that gives you enough time technically to have 20 clients. And the other thing is like, all right, if you don't want to have 20 clients at a time, you either need to do group things or raise your rates or whatnot. But then, that's another option.
I would love to do small group things, honestly. Right. I think that would be an awesome thing. It's just, yet another thing to like, okay, how do I do that? Mm-hmm. So.
All right. And so, all right. So we have that structure in place. Mm-hmm. Or that like that potential, right?
Yeah.
If this is a repeatable model, let's do that. So the question really comes down to right now, you don't have 20 clients, and so you're trying to get a bunch, and they would fill up. It's essentially if you did the 2 or 3 times a month, like the 2 or 3 of those presentations a month, eventually you would hit equilibrium at 20, which is where you want to be, right?
Yeah. Which is, that seems reasonable. 2 or 3 presentations a month is like, once a week, every other week, and that's very doable for me.
And that's assuming you don't have like longer relationships than a 3-month. I was just benchmarking to that as like a reasonable amount of time to actually help somebody.
That makes sense, yeah.
But it could be, you could have longer relationships. But all right, so that seems reasonable, but like the acceleration of this would just be, how many times can you give this workshop, especially to new people?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm like, ooh. I met someone last week who was talking about there's this adventure tourism summit that's usually held in Seattle and will be held in Hokkaido for the first time, like in Japan for the first time ever this September. And so I'm reaching out to him being like, hey, do you know any, because, it's like this big global summit. There's going to be a lot of people, needing to practice like pitching and English and networking and stuff. So I'm, going to message him and see what.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Who, what, like, if he needs it, and if not him, any of the people that he knows who are going to be at that thing. So there's like things like that I'm finding, but how can I make sure that I'm finding stuff like that every week? And so, figuring out, okay, well, what are the upcoming things? And we've talked about this a little bit, find when a seminar, symposium, conference, whatever is coming up, and then, kind of try and figure out the people who might be going there, or find one person and see if they can, help with that. So there's some of that I'm thinking might be helpful as far as finding people to talk to. Right. Other than that, I'm like, having an evergreen webinar that I can link people to. So that
have to know who to advertise it to.
Exactly, it's true. Yeah. So there's that kind of stuff. But yeah.
So, if we thought about this, just breaking this down, right? I always love the number 100. It's a great number. So if you listed 100 places you could give that workshop, and like you could give it some leeway, right? Like groups, Facebook groups, these connections, like absolutely, make those the top 10, top 20. You're going to start like filling in like, okay, what are other like, business conventions that draw lots of Japanese people that I could target and who are groups identified with that, like, could I reach out to whoever's running that conference and their registrants or something like that, and you could offer this as a service.
Yeah.
All right, so I got 10 or 20 more. I need to find more groups, right? But like past 50 does get challenging, and so it might be podcasts, YouTube channels. Like what are all of those? All of those places. Like you'd start branching out to lots of media, but like. If you did that, right, shoot for like trying to get 100. A version of your workshop, right? And it might not be exactly the same, but like you've already developed the materials and you already have the invite, like check out my website. I do one-on-one coaching as well as an email list with tips, etc. So if you had 100 of those, then theoretically, and you only needed to do 3 a month, probably like up front as you're polishing this, right, and learning it, you probably want to do more, if possible. But like even if we assumed 3 a month, that would last you 33 months or 3 years. A list of 100, and a list of 100 is hard, but it's doable.
Yeah, especially when I think of it over the course of 3 years, as opposed to like over the course of 3 months, which is kind of where my brain is right now, between now and June.
Yeah.
But yes, over 3 years, that does sound much more reasonable.
Right. And it's if you have that, then you could find out, like, right, the next step is like, all right, how many places can I find to put this thing? And then you could say, how many could I fit into this month?
Yeah.
Right? You could start doing that. And you could vary it up, right? Like if a podcast that's recorded asynchronously is easier and you can do it during the day, right? You can fit, like, all right, I'm going to try and do, 2 live things, a podcast, and record one that I could send to people for things that doesn't work out. Like, hey, sorry we couldn't meet out. Like, do you want to share this link for this free training with your group? I'd be happy to share it if I can't do it personally or whatever. And then that way it becomes less spammy. And like if you tried to reach out and run a free webinar for them, you could fall back on just seeing if they'd like that, which actually probably they'd be more likely, I think, to post that than if you just said, hey, here's a free webinar, can you post it to your group, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But anyway, you could background, but like it seems like that list is probably the number. Like if you had to pick one thing that would accelerate your ability to do that, it's generating this list.
Okay, I will put that on my list for today. Make the list is on my list. Yeah. Love it when lists go on lists.
Right. Well, and it's nice hitting a place where we know enough, and again, this all hangs on this being repeatable.
Yep.
But we can iterate as it goes, right? We can swap things out, try new things, etc. That's the other thing. If you have the list of 100 places, you have a workshop, you could say like, for this one, I feel like trying something else.
Yeah.
And that's something else you could plan on. But like that list of like knowing where to go, is probably the next thing. So.
All right.
But it's starting to feel very doable. Like we have something we hope is a repeatable process. In some senses, that means we're not where we want to be with your clients, but like that is the major goal for the end of June.
Yeah.
We just need to verify that it is.
Yep.
And we have time in case it's not to tweak.
Yay!
All right. So there you go. That's kind of the process of thinking through the big picture, what's working, breaking it down, and to finding a next step to focus on.
Yeah, which is hugely helpful for me, so thank you.
Well, and of course, like I would love to get here earlier, but a lot of this hinges, as we've said, on like basically trying to run a customer journey. And again, that's not just building it, but that's trying to get people through it repeatedly and running several of those to figure out what fits, to find something that's starting to get results. Right? And even then, right, this again, you always want to be validating. You want to validate that this is repeatable, this workshop gets repeatable value, repeatable clients. And it may be, right, all of this hinges on getting new clients, none on referrals, right? So it could be that you only have to run 1 or 2 a month, right?
Yeah, because I get referrals from other ones,
Or you find ways to extend, longer client relationships. What's your current longest client relationship?
Gosh, total ever? Or
well, like, of the clients that you have now.
Of the ones that I have now.
It's the longest running.
Just a second, my brain's like thinking. Because I actually don't have any that are super long right now. Maybe like 6 months.
Okay.
But the longest one I've had ever was 3 years.
Right, but like, yeah. So 6 months, for instance, if that were your average, would dramatically change this picture where if people are lasting 6 months, then you're only, losing 3 or 4 people losing. You're cycling 3 or 4 people out, and that's assuming that you're not developing other products or whatever by kind of like, cross that bridge when we get there. But like 3 or 4, which would be 1 or 2, or like 1 plus referrals, etc. So there are... there's ways we could tweak this model, but we have like it's so hard because when you're at 0 or like inconsistent, so like it's 1 or 0 or something like that, or a few people here, you can't create the actual business model. Right? You can think, I will do XYZ, and you can make estimates of numbers, but they have no relationship to reality. But all of a sudden, once you actually have something that gets a few results, then you can start creating a model and then seeing where you are off from that, like maybe future workshops get you more clients because there's more people who don't know you yet, versus like, some of the people who already would want to be your clients in that group already know you, right? Yeah. Or who knows, right? Like or it could be under, etc. And so, it's the process of trying different models until you get results, and then trying to repeat that and scale those results. Yep. And then focusing on the finding.
Yay!
So, all right. Well, thank you for joining us. I would love to hear where you are at, especially if you're developing a new company, new product line, etc., and experimenting it. I was thinking the other day, like, this doesn't feel like Sisyphus, the guy who's rolling the rock up a hill and then it rolls down. Because a lot of the time when you're starting a new company, you're pushing that rock and it's not going anywhere. Like, it's not even one step forward, 2 steps back. It's just you're stuck there. That's what it feels like, right? Yeah. But I hope what this has shown you is that, like, try new things and repeat that cycle of learning, and then the results start to come, like things start to click. And it's not just that you found the right formula in one of these tests, it's that the things from all of these tests that you're learning start to come together, so each new iteration starts to get more successful. And it's hard, it creeps up on you, right? Yeah. It's not like one epiphany and all of a sudden everything worked.
Yep, it is slow.
All right. So if this has been helpful for you, please like and subscribe, join the channel so you can get future updates. We're trying to give you a real life look at building a business as it's happening, rather than the rosy, exciting romanticism of entrepreneurship that you get after the fact from people who are already successful. All right. Well, until next time, make big changes, one small habit at a time.
Bye.